En estos momentos nos encontramos conectados al canal de YouTube.
¿Qué tal? Muy buenas tardes. La Autoridad Educativa Federal en la Ciudad de México, a través de la Dirección General de Educación Normal y Actualización del Magisterio, les da la más cordial bienvenida al tercer y último día del cuarto conversatorio. Construir comunidades de colaboración entre docentes de inglés en las escuelas normales. Building Collaborative Networking Among English Normal Teachers. Agradecemos la presencia de autoridades, docentes de los diversos niveles de educación básica y normal que esta tarde nos acompañan a través del canal de YouTube. La actividad con la que iniciamos es la conferencia magistral 2, Collaborative Roads Through Mediation to Establish a Pathway in ELT Within the Normals Context, para lo cual presento a quien fungirá como moderador, Carlos da Silva Elvas, de la Dirección General de Educación Normal y Actualización del Magisterio. Adelante, maestro.
Gracias, Carolina Maturano. Good afternoon. We start this third day of the fourth edition of the English Conversatory with the first keynote presentation, entitled Collaborative Paths Through Mediation to Establish a Path in the ELT Within the Normal Context. Brought to us by two great keynote speakers, María Idea César Peralta from Universidad Pedagógica Nacional de San Luis Potosí, and Mónica Peláez Morales from Instituto de Educación Superior del Magisterio, ISMA de Tabasco. Welcome both.
Le pongo a todos los que están ahorita.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well,
First,
before we start, let me introduce you to our audience. María Idea César Peralta is a FIC teacher, initial training as historian and master's degree in English teaching. Main interest in alternative educational systems and international academic collaboration through active participation in communities of practice. She's an active member of the Global Folk High School Movement, Denmark. She is currently an English teacher at Universidad Pedagógica Nacional, Unit 241 of San Luis Potosí. She collaborates in Academic Extension Office in the curricular and institutional design of the courses offered in continuing training, co-coordinator of the National Co-Design Team, bachelor's degree in teaching and learning in telesecundaria of the 2022 program. Her line of research is on the 21st century skills, communicative mediation, plurilingualism, and pluriculturalism as a fundamental basis of educating life and global citizenship. She comes from Universidad Pedagógica Nacional de San Luis Potosí. Welcome, teacher.
thank you so much.
And we also have with us Mónica Peláez Morales. She's also an English teacher with a degree in education in English language teaching to speakers of other languages from the University of Kent, England. Her extensive experience as a teacher in the educational private sector and in the public sector at the secondary and higher education levels has allowed her to know the real needs of the English language in both work and multicultural contexts. For this reason, she is interested in the design of English for specific purposes, ESP courses, that mediate the use of the language effectively and efficiently in the labor market and daily life. Likewise, it works on the mainstream of the English language with topics from different degrees courses offered in normal schools as a proposal that enhances the inclusion, collaboration, and job opportunities of normales. graduates by collaborating with the Normalista community. She currently collaborates in the National English Team for Curricular Co-Design of the Bachelor's Degree in Telesecundaria at the Institute of Higher Education of Teachers, ESMA, in Tabasco. She comes from Instituto de Educación Superior del Magisterio en Villahermosa, Tabasco. Welcome, Monica. Welcome, teachers. You may now start your keynote presentation.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much. I will share my screen.
Please.
Is it projecting okay?
I can see it. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're
Before
welcome.
I would like to express our thanks, special thanks to you, Carlos da Silva Elvas, for the invitation and all the authorities that and the staff that have been working really hard to make this event possible. Just a moment. Well, the presentation that we are going to talk about now, it's about collaborative routes through mediation to establish a pathway in ELT within the Normales context. This presentation is, we made it together, Professor Mónica Peláez and I. And the key aspects that we are going to discuss here are the following. First, we are going to talk about collaborative work through mediation. The second one is context scenarios. Next is networking route development. And finally, we are going to show you how Professor Mónica Peláez and I paths have come across and how we are going to show you these routes that we have fallen together. Before I start, I would like to share with you this quote by Fusaroli, which is cited in Picardo's 2022. Language, even when written, is first and foremost a dialogical and intersubjective activity. Language is an activity that allows us to coordinate actions, perceptions, and attitudes, share experiences and plans, and to construct and maintain complex social relations on different time scales. It is important to keep this in mind when we are talking about teaching and learning a language. I will tell you why. As it happens in 2022, we were invited to participate in this big project about designing curriculum study plans for escuelas normales. And it was a really interesting shift because in a way we could understand the previous plan, the 2019 plan, study plans, as this focus, the communicative approach, and then the 2022 programs as the action-oriented approach for telesecundaria's bachelor's degree. And let me tell you why. The previous study program was focused on the main aim, which was the functional and the communicative approach. The communication was the key point in these study programs in a foreign or second language, in this case, English. The tasks were with a linguistic aim, calibrated according to the level of linguistic difficulty, implying a final project or not. And also the knowledge of the language, it was about linguistic skills and knowing how through communicative strategies. Finally, the language goal was linguistic knowledge. That means the saber, and the skills, saber hacer. And this was like, in a nutshell, was like the whole point of the 2019 programs, the English programs for all the bachelor's degrees in escuelas normales. However, with this shift in 2022, we were presented to a big challenge. First of all, we had this time cut down. So instead of, everybody knows this, that instead of teaching 6 hours as we were doing it, we had only 4 hours assigned. And for telesecundaria bachelor's degree, we had this double objective or this double aim that we needed to consolidate linguistic skills as well as prepare students to teach English in this bachelor's degree. After a lot of discussion, we were allowed to keep the 6 semesters, but this represented a big question for us. Like, how are we going to teach English? Are we going to teach English in the same way as we were doing it with the 2019 study programs? And the answer was no at all, because this represented a new challenge that is also affected by the reality that we are living in a worldwide context. This reality that we live nowadays is characterized by disruption and uncertainty. So our study programs were not strangers to this situation. So we needed to reframe the way we were going to teach English in this bachelor's degree. And the better fit for this was the action-oriented approach by the CEFR, the Common European Framework of Languages of the 2020 volume, which says that the action-oriented approach main aim is social. This means that we need to act in another language. We need to act for reaching a shared goal and a common action. So language is not the objective, the main objective, but the social aim or the social dimension of language. It was also characterized by increasingly complex tasks, not exclusively linguistic, but problem situations implying a strategic decision-making progress. And also, the main features are the transfer and strategic mobilization of competences. This means the knowing how to act. And finally, there is a non-linguistic goal. It's about accomplishing a mission, but not teaching the language, but accomplishing a mission. And I think the whole team that we were working together, we agree on this. In a big picture, this is the action-oriented approach, which means that it's not that we are disregarding the communicative language teaching, because that's the baseline of language education. But it's transcending that into the action-oriented approach with a different perspective. And we still need to teach the communicative approach, having the language as communication, of course, with these methods that we all know and that we all use and keep using nowadays, which is the direct method, the audiolingual method, the visual method, and this means seeing the language as a habit formation, of course, and also the grammar translation method, which is seeing the language as an intellectual exercise. This still is a part of our teaching, of course, and mainly for the first levels, pre-A1 and A1. But the action-oriented approach proposes a next stage or the following stage in language teaching, which is the action-oriented approach, and where we see the language in a social dimension, a cognitive strategic dimension, and having the plurilingualism as the final goal. And this means that we have to use the competencies and communicative activities that we are no longer thinking about language as the 4 main skills: listening, reading, speaking, and writing. But we are talking about communicative activities, which are perceptive activities or perception, production, interaction, and mediation. And this is a very important, it's really worth mentioning mediation, because mediation is understood by the CEFR as the higher level of communication. It's no longer just thinking about the language as receiving and exchanging information, but to co-create meaning. And this co-creation of meaning in collaboration within a social context, it can only be possible when we develop the mediation skills. We also have to take into account autonomy, intercultural awareness, and tasks. The evaluation also changes in this approach. Evaluation can be formal also, but informal as well. it's very important to take into account peer assessment, feedback, and the assessment tools that we are going to use. And most of all, self-assessment. And these are, when we talk about the action-oriented approach, how we perceive the learners is also in a different direction, in a different way, because we are going to see our learners as agents, as social agents. And just to make just to be more clear, to be an agent is to intentionally make things happen by one's own action. What does this mean? This means that the learner is willing to learn, that the learner has this willingness to be active in his or her own learning process, but has the intention to do it. And not just the intention, but is acting onto it. So when we see our learners as these social agents, then we need to be aware that they have these different aspects that integrate their mindsets. The first one is their personal knowledge, which is composed by skills, interests, and aims. They also are in a personal context that we need to be aware of. They have individual language skills and also personal learning styles. After that, then when we know our learners in this way, then we are ready to go for the teaching process with them. And then we need to be aware also about the context in which we are teaching, in which we are sharing. And after the context, we can be able to design the situations or the learning situations through different tasks that are going to allow to activate this knowledge in our students, to solve problems, and to finally present these solutions or these proposals into an audience. When we talk about agency, as I just mentioned before, the action-oriented approach suggests that learners are seen as social agents. Social, why social? Because they are exerting agency within a specific social context, which imposes conditions and constraints. And this is very important to keep in mind, because the learning process is not a just one-way process. We know that there will be bumps on the way, and then we need to deal with those bumps, but also our students. So being aware of the conditions and constraints will help us to have a more clear landscape on where are we heading to. And the agent means that our learners will be mobilizing all their resources, cognitive, emotional, linguistic, and cultural, to develop strategies in iterative cycles in order to plan, produce results, and most of all, monitoring their action. It is very important to keep in mind also that agency is included in the curriculum, or has to be included in the curriculum, as collaborative tasks. The learning process is seen as a collaborative action and not an individual activity only, in which learners construct and mediate meaning. This is, you can find this information in the CEFR volume 2020. And this is very related to what the OECD proposes in their Learning Compass 2030, which they say, or they argue, that student agency is the essence of the educational systems, that all educational systems in the world should be focused on that if we want to reach the well-being by 2030. Because it's in this way, whereas the students are aware of their agency, individual agency, that they can co-create, or they can make this co-agency happen with peers, teachers, parents, and communities, in order to all together get to the well-being for 2030. That will be, we could say, the main goal for education nowadays. Now, when we talk about mediation, like all of that, all the things I mentioned before, can only happen through mediation. But what do we understand about mediation? Well, according to the CEFR, in mediation, the user-learner acts as a social agent who creates bridges and helps to construct or convey meaning, sometimes within the same language, sometimes across modalities, e.g. from spoken to sign or vice versa, in cross-modal communication, and sometimes from one language to another, cross-linguistic mediation. The focus is on the role of language in processes like creating the space and conditions for communicating and or learning, collaborating to construct new meaning, encouraging others to construct or understand new meaning, and passing on new information in an appropriate form. The context can be social, pedagogic, cultural, linguistic, or professional. When we understand this concept of mediation, then the CEFR tells us that there are three different kinds of mediation. The first one is mediating concepts, and this means that thinking things through together. When we do this as a team, we of course will be reflecting that on our classes, on our students. Mediation is thinking things through, and that's the first and foremost important kind of mediation, when we understand the terms and concepts that we are dealing with. After that comes the mediating communication. Mediating communication, it's the process of self-auto-regulation, that I am able to regulate myself as well as others, seeing what is good in others. If we are facing a difficult situation, look for all the possible ways of solving the situation, and the others that are aware of that, and making this interaction more productive. After mediating communication, then we also have mediating a text. And this means enabling understanding of text itself for themselves or with others, which is also very important. And I would like to just mention here that our English national team was characterized by this. We work on mediation at all times, and I'm not saying it was an easy progress or easy, not progress, but process. We had lots of discussions, debates, but most of it, we had a lot of mediation where we needed to see what was good in each one of us as members of a team, and how our areas of opportunity could be strengthened into positive behaviors and positive features of ourselves. So we did this at all times, and the result was in our study programs that we designed for teacher trainees in escuelas normales. Summing up, I would like to say that the action-oriented approach allows us to do all of this, and this could be taken as the features that our national English team worked in this networking relationship that we had during this for almost 2 years. And first of all, we need to think backwards. We design modules backwards. And what does that mean? Well, it means that we first set up our goals or our main goal. And it was also, this will be only possible through subtasks and can-do aims. We needed to accept the complexity. It was not productive to complain about how things were going with the time cut down and different things that we needed to take into account, but we needed to accept that complexity and work with it. So scaffolding was necessary at all times. Authenticity and credibility of a scenario or a task or a project. We designed those programs from scratch with the collaboration of each one of the members. And that gives us this, this distinction of authenticity and credibility. There was autonomy to research different source materials, which we did at all times as well, and a unifying task with several phases, with co-production of an artifact and a reflection phase. This was very characteristic as well. We had a unifying task, which was designing a study plan for each semester. We did it in different phases. We all collaborated into it. to have a final artifact. And we also had these reflection phases at the end of each program. There has to be a pluri or intercultural focus, integration of languages. And this is, well, we did this because, first of all, we were working in a national team where we all come from different contexts, and the context of our escuelas normales were different as well. So there was a lot of sharing, a lot of agreeing, a lot of finding similarities and differences to be able to have this unifying task. With this pluricultural or intercultural feature on it. The agency to make decisions, the co-construction of meaning through mediation of concepts and communication. This, as I just said before, was very important because we need to reach agreements in order to find consensus on every program that or phase of the program that we were working in. We could not go forward if we didn't reach agreements before or reach the consensus. And this feed forward or feedback means the self-efficacy and awareness. We were always questioning if what we were doing was good enough, was practical. We ask between or among us, and we also ask other teachers to help us out to see in the big picture the work that we were doing. And the self-assessment of the outcomes, which is just linked to what I just said before. And this is the scenario context. Like the first one was this big project, I could say, where we worked with the team, Professor Monica and I. We designed these 6 different English programs for the telesecundaria bachelor's degree. But then we also came together in a academic writing diplomado, which was very good for our continuing professional development. We think that these stages of development were covered by this diplomado as well as other activities, but it helped us to be aware of what we are as professionals, and we understood this professional practice, what it means, and why this diplomado was so important for us in our professional practice. This represented an engagement to demonstrate this competency in this professional practice at work. And finally, how we integrated this that we learned in this diplomado in our professional practice. And also it's really worth mentioning that we came across with a lot of different FICs in this diplomado. Some of them I knew before, and I knew some other new colleagues. And this networking of FICs also strengthened a little bit more. And now, from what I just said before, from the beginning up to now, one can ask, so what would be global mediation? Is mediation measured in a way? Is collaboration somehow, I don't know, it can be reflected in somehow? Can I see how collaboration works in a global context? And I just think it is. In a way of watching how collaboration works in a global context, we can look at this countries' top 5 foreign collaborations by number in scientific publications. So what collaboration can take us in a big picture? Well, collaboration can see or can look like this. For example, if you can come closer to the screen, you will see that there are these big countries that have lots of collaboration with with other different nations. And if I place the mouse like this, you can see the collaborations that, for example, China has with these different countries that you can see in bold. And you can see how Germany does it, the UK, but we also have the United States. And as we can see, the United States is the country that has the most collaborations with most countries. And one can ask, why is this happening? What can make this possible? And I think this is the mediation and the collaboration understanding that different communities have. And this is what can we look in a few years, perhaps, if we would like to. Mexico could be like this. And we can start with these communities of FICs in a national regional context. So to to see ourselves like this, very colorful and very bright. Now I would like to pass on the microphone to my dear colleague, Professor Monica.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, as we can observe, mediation is a key factor for the assertive development of professional and informal networking. In this case, our professional networking route started with the invitation to participate in the design of the national curriculum of the English program for telesecundaria. And the invitation was open to all teachers. And at the beginning, it was really surprising to see that there were few teachers that had decided to participate. So we started our networking communication, and these were the steps involved in this process. First, it was the creation of an online community that started connecting with other communities linked by several interests or goals. This mediation process was fostered interpersonal relationships by sharing experience and expertise. Although it was the first time we were together, we delved into the curriculum design project immediately because time was the main constraint, since we only had 2 months to structure the first program. Despite this, the management of mediation skills led by the leaders allowed a harmonious environment, and this sense or this atmosphere that they created lasted for 2 years. It is important to mention that in this process, there were also informal interactions during the meetings, and these informal interactions were very relevant to help us build trust and understanding among us. Now, how did we do these network connections? First, I would like to share with you the following metaphor from Dr. Ramón y Cajal, who shared the Nobel Prize in 1906 with Camino Golgi for their work on the structure of the nervous system. I think that this is the best way to show you how our inside networking functions. Like the entomologist hunting for brightly colored butterflies, my attention was drawn to the flower garden of the gray matter, which contains cells with delicate and elegant forms, the mysterious butterflies of the soul, the beating of whose wings may someday, who knows, clarify the secret of mental life. I think this metaphor really explains what is the sense of belonging. And these butterflies of the soul are there to connect and gather everybody to make a community. So that's the same situation happens when we do networking, and we experience this in our team. The linking element which made this possible was through mediation, which enabled a sense of a stronger belonging among us, and this allowed to have a more natural flow in our participation. This participation involved the sharing of expertise and the understanding of the human experience from different contexts, backgrounds, knowledge, and wisdom from different parts of Mexico. And it is through this collaborative connection that we humans can defy and solve different cognitive challenges. Now, let's pass into collaboration. The sharing and communication, which I mentioned previously, are permeated by the skill to collaborate in teamwork. And if we formalize this collaboration, and if we see it as a process and a competency development, we can support it with the following quote. According to the Cambridge life competencies framework, collaboration means taking personal responsibility for own contribution to a group task, encouraging effective group interaction, managing the sharing of tasks in a group activity, and working towards task completion. Okay, this is Cambridge University Press 2020. Okay, so collaboration. Thank you. And this is what we did in the curriculum design of the 6 English programs. It was very challenging, but it helped us to meet specific requirements and specifications from the Nueva Escuela Mexicana foundations, which included the following courses: Práctica Profesional and Saber Pedagógico. And we also had to meet deadlines. And a very important aspect was to meet authorities' questioning sessions when they needed to redirect the team's proposals according to their outlines. Okay. For that reason, it was really necessary to shape a disciplined team with a harmonious collaborative working environment. The synergy during the virtual meetings showed different modes of communication. It took time to get used to them, but after a while, we managed to learn how to tackle disagreements to reach consensus. Okay, and this is why active listening was so important, and also having the same opportunity to share was too. Okay. Also, what made this work possible was the mediational working environment in our team, led mainly by Professor María Idea César Peralta. Meanwhile, the structure frame was provided by Professor Irene del Carmen Leiva Martinez. Both leaders handle and encourage the team's drive by fostering a sense of trust and belonging. And what about FIES and FIX working together? Because this was our context. It is relevant to mention that Formadores de Inglés and Formadores de Inglés con Experiencia share a diversity of background knowledge and expertise in English language teaching. But there was also a plus that turned this group into a solid multidisciplinary team. This plus was the professional profiles of Formadores de Inglés C in different disciplines such as history, engineering, mass media, and computer science, as well as the experience of FIES in teaching English for specific purposes. And all of this created and reinforced a community belonging, okay? A sense of community belonging. And now, what helped us to interweave this networking? Imagination. Imagination enables the possibility of solving problems by sparking creativity and by fostering co-creation when building teamwork. This one takes place when it involves a community purpose through trust, understanding, and collaboration. That means it is not only about me. It's about our work, and it's about our team, and it's about our community. Last but not least, or different but not less, as it was mentioned in the movie Temple Grandin, we cannot forget inclusion. Inclusion can identify and recognize the best practices and best skills in each team member. And when you combine everybody's expertise and experience, you are able to create a solving problem mindset, tackling cognitive challenges through networking mediation. In this way, disabilities are not seen as weaknesses, but as an opportunity to support others and build a strong teamwork environment through networking. And that was the case with FIX and FIES specific domains. Thank you.
Professor. Now we would like to talk about some lessons learned about networking. So. And about networking and mediation. We think that collaboration means compromising. Asking these questions to ourselves, like, what do I have to share? And to what extent do I wish to do it? Also, networking and collaboration or mediation for us means openness and willingness to co-create. As my colleague said, it's not about me, it's about us, mainly. Networking is the next level of awareness of our social contribution to the world. Even if that means that we are working in a classroom, we are contributing to the world. And that is understood as transcending ourselves in a co-creation process.
Then we have active listening, patience and resilience, criticism, and feedback, which is a must to improve. Sharing is benefit and a contribution to a common purpose. But I would like to mention something in relation to criticism. We need it as part of a feedback process. Some people may agree and others may not, but criticism has to come with proposals and commitment to share, because in that way, it can be turned into a benefit and contribution to a common purpose.
I'm sorry, I had this technical problem. Just a second. Okay. Well, now we would like to share with us, we would like to share with you how Professor Monica's and I roots look like. Okay. Taking time to. Okay. So first, of course, as we just mentioned, along this talk, we met in the English National Team for Curriculum Design, and we were 6 of us working for 2 years. And well, just to mention again that our team was characterized by a collaborative work based on setting clear goals and reaching agreements through consensus and mediation with the leadership of 2 coordinators. And of course, we had the support. There was a colleague of us who acted as a general coordinator of the bachelor's degree, which well, she was a huge support for our work. And also there were these people from the HESL. After that, Monica and I decided to have an external opinion of the work that we were doing. And we had this brief consultation with this curriculum design specialist, Enrica Picardo. And she works in the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education department. Well, she's a specialist in curriculum, teaching and learning. Moni, would you like to add something?
Yeah, it was a really very interesting experience because she shared her experience on curriculum design. So we took into account her knowledge on it, and also she extended some information and she shared some information about ESP and how we can adapt it into curriculums for beginners. So it was like like a very basic interchange on how to do design. Thank you.
Yes. After that, Moni, she decided to participate in Didáctica de las Artes course in the National Curriculum Design team for the same bachelor's degree in telesecundaria. And Moni?
Well, due to these networking connections, escuelas normales, I had the opportunity to participate in the curriculum design of this course, Didáctica de las Artes. And now I am co-teaching this course using English language through listening, reading, and speaking skills. And I would really like to thank Professor Abril Mejia, who was in charge of the whole design. Thank you.
Okay. In the meanwhile, I was also invited to the second and third Conversatorio organized by the DGNAM, and I was invited by, I had the invitation from Carlos da Silva. And I mentioned this only because I was also invited to participate in the Pathway to Academic Writing Diplomado, where I invited Professor Monica, organized by the DGNAM and the Regional English Language Office and by the American Embassy Education Department. And this was a really an extremely rewarding experience and learning experience, of course.
Yeah, I would like to share with you my personal experience in the sense that Professor Góngora managed a warm, strict, and professional networking style. And that allowed me, and I think many others, not to feel alone in the process. That was very, very important.
Thank you very much. And that is most relevant because we were invited in that diplomado to be a part of this virtual educator program where Professor Monica took advantage of it quite well. Moni.
Yeah, Jose Manuel Villafuerte and Jose Rodriguez are the representatives of the RELO program, and they provided all the information I needed to apply for the project. But there was an important sequence of networking because he asked me to contact Profesora Maestra Ana Vega from Escuela Normal Superior, Plantel Navajoa in Sonora. And I really want to thank her because she shared with me their experience and also she guided me through the requirements that I needed to fulfill. And now we have this virtual educator program with Mackenzie Xiao, who is in charge of the group of the English courses, together with Francisco, the English professor. Thank you very much.
Very good. And there is also this networking that I've been having for some years myself, and I participated in these global dialogues, which were organized by a very dear friend of mine, Julie Schackevold. She lives in Denmark, and she works at the IPC, International People's College. And these global dialogues are a series of dynamic virtual conversations about education, bridging continents, cultures, and ideas created and hosted by her, where I participated in 2 of those episodes. The first one was called The School for Life, Living and Learning Together. And it was very rewarding to be in touch or in contact with a community, an international community of students and teachers. And the second one was called Education and Empowerment, where I invited Moni, and she took part in this talk as well. After this same friend, Julie, invited me to be a part of the Global Building Network. And this network, it's caring about peace mostly and living in a world that is better for everyone. This community was originated by the author of the book, The Nordic Secret, Lynette Rachel Anderson. And this, she and the other author launched this book. It became a bestseller. It was published by the New York Times. And from that book, she was able to create this whole project of Global Bildung. And this is basically a community of practitioners of all the areas and disciplines which are striving to make the world a better place to live. But it is very important to understand that in order to belong to a community and within a network, we need to know how are we contributing with this community? Because if we're not doing it and we're just as spectators, I think it's good, but it's not the same experience as being a contributor to the cause. So for the moment, I just paused my participation in there because people here are doing big, great things for society or for the world in general. So this will be like the aspiration, to be a part of a bigger community that where we all have this common goal in behalf of the society. I also had been participating in the Home Fall High School, and this is the initiative from an organization, an NGO, from a very dear friend of mine also, Danish teacher. And this space is an online Home Fall High School. It's a get-together across age, gender, and culture that celebrates diversity, equality, and sharing and dialogue. And the space is created as a bouillon cube of the atmosphere and togetherness one can experience in a Danish boys' high school. This is an alternative educational system that I can tell you about if anyone is interested. But mostly we talk. We have these really deep and interesting dialogues. And the last one that we just had was called Convict and Delight. And I invited Moni to be a part of this experience as well. From then on, we were also invited to participate in the curricular design in the Licenciatura of Inglés, Licenciatura en Ciencia en Inglés. And we participated in 2 courses where we broadened even more our networking with other FIGs. And also there was this invitation to be a part of these narratives gathering the curriculum design experience for 2022 study plans that is on progress. We just are waiting for the instructions, but we would very much like to be a part of this and share again with all the FIGs that are going to be interested in be a part of this activity. And now we are together again in this Cuarto Conversatorio, building collaborative networking among English normal teachers. And for us, this experience represents our reflecting, a way of reflecting on networking awareness. And for us, this is work in an ever-going progress. This is not it. This is what we have done up to now. And well, this story or this journey is to be continued. That will be for us at the end of the presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, teachers, for sharing with us this master conference on collaborative routes through mediation to establish a pathway in ELT within the normal context. It is clear that you have been in a journey that has taken you a lot of time, and you engaged us into this fantastic journey too. And we have several comments, but there's one that I would like particularly to express here. And it is from Miss Lorena Velasco Mariscal. She is the English coordinator for a bachelor's degree in Escuela Normal Superior de México. She says, great conference. I think the intercultural dimension in language teaching prepares our students for interaction with people of other cultures. And she continues, mediation is an incredibly important aspect of successful communication, and for this reason, it should be developed as a skill during language learning. I would like now to move to several questions that we have from the audience. Well, I mentioned already that they have been congratulating you both for this conference in YouTube chat, and we have this questions for you. How were challenges related to linguistic and cultural diversity addressed in the curriculum design? This question is for both of you. The ones that want to answer. How were challenges related to linguistic and cultural diversity addressed in the curriculum design?
I think we are not seeing it as a, I will take it, sorry, but Moni
Yeah.
can just jump in at any time. I think we are not seeing it as a challenge, but as a part of it. And that will be the first thing to say. It's part of it because we are talking about English language teaching or language education as plurilingual and pluricultural. So they are part of it. And what mediation tells us is that we are able to communicate in a pluricultural world when you can mobilize all the repertoire that you already have from the languages that you are able to speak or you have this proficiency at. So it's not challenging, but it's to work with it. It's just to learn how to do it. So we need to broaden our spectrum of teaching into 3, 4, or 2 different scenarios, I think. But Professor Monica can add something.
No, I think it's very clear.
Okay, thank you very much. What role did the educational authorities play in the project and how was their commitment ensured?
Well, in general, they were supportive, but in some occasions, there were certain aspects of games of the role in which we did not have all the freedom to show or to extend. So there were certain limits to our proposals. And what we lack somehow was the support in the theory to be able to feel more comfortable. And also, well, the authorities were there, especially Professor Perla, also Maestra Gladys. But still, we needed more time with them. That's from my personal point of view. We needed to spend more time with them to have more specific outcomes, maybe, and for them to understand our purpose. Because sometimes we were thinking as English teachers and what our students needed, because we are very aware of the need. We are very extremely aware of the need, but there were certain constraints that we were not able to develop, mainly because of the time that we had, not only to design, but to propose the whole scenario.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, Monica. Well, we are approaching the end of the time located for this master conference. I greatly appreciate your participation, and I am sure we will see you in the near future. Please don't leave yet. We have something for you as a token of our appreciation for this master conference. I leave the conduction of the program with and back to Carolina Maturano.
Gracias, maestro, y gracias a nuestras invitadas. La Autoridad Educativa Federal en la Ciudad de México, a través de la Dirección General de Educación Normal y Actualización del Magisterio, otorgan el presente reconocimiento a María Idea César Peralta, ponente, Mónica Peláez Morales, ponente, y a Carlos Cándido da Silva Elvas, moderador, por su participación en la Conferencia Magistral 2, Collaborative Routes from mediation to establish a pathway in ELT within the normals context, en el marco del cuarto conversatorio de inglés, Building Collaborative Networking Among English Normal Teachers, construir comunidades de colaboración entre docentes de inglés en las escuelas normales, que se llevó a cabo en modalidad virtual. Firma Eugenio Aurelio López López, Director General, Ciudad de México, octubre 2024. Y a continuación, tenemos el panel de experiencias docentes de la Licenciatura en Enseñanza del Inglés en la Escuela Normal Superior de México, Evaluating the Effectiveness of Teacher Training Programs, Curriculum Alignment, Reflective Practices, and Real-World Preparedness, para lo cual presento y cedo la palabra a la moderadora Carla Joana Hernández Pérez, de la Dirección General de Educación Normal y Actualización del Magisterio. Adelante.
Thank you, Carol, and good afternoon. Hi, everyone. I don't know if you can actually see me. Oh, there it is. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our panel discussion of English teaching experts from the Escuela Normal Superior de Mexico, subordinated to the topic Evaluating the Effectiveness of Teacher Training Programs, Curriculum Alignment, Reflective Practices, and Real-World Preparedness. I'm Carla Joana Hernandez, and I'll be your moderator today. During this panel, we'll listen to 3 ENSM English teachers' opinions on this topic, to whom I give the most cordial welcome. It's high time I introduce our guests. I have with me Diana Castañón López, English teacher at Escuela Normal Superior de México. There it is. Thank you, and welcome to our panel. Humberto Cárdenas Tarraza, also an English teacher at Escuela Normal Superior de Mexico. Mr. Cárdenas, welcome to our panel. And finally, I also have Rodrigo Eder Soria Rojas, English teacher at Escuela Normal Superior de Mexico. Welcome to our panel. Well, now I would like to explain the dynamics of our panel. We have 3 rounds of questions, and each of you will have 5 minutes to answer them, okay? At the end of the round of questions, we will make some final considerations to conclude our panel, of course, if time permits. To start our panel this afternoon, I would like to share, I would like you to share with the audience a little bit about yourselves. So, I don't know, probably we can start with Miss Diana Castañón. Remember, this is just a little, well, it's not the round number 1, it's just a brief introduction.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm pleased to be here with all of you. It is an honor to be invited to this round of questions where teachers from the Escuela Normal Superior de Mexico are going to be participating their experience along with all of you. Thank you for the invitation once again.
Well, thank you, Ms. Castañón, and it's our pleasure to have you here. Now I can see Mr. Cárdenas. Would you be so kind as to introduce yourself?
Thank you very much, Carla. And well, thank you to the audience. I'm also really happy to be here, to be part of this round table. And well, I'm just a full-time English teacher at the Escuela Normal Superior de Mexico. I'm also a FIC, and it's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cárdenas, and thank you also for keeping your camera on. Remember that since we have a transmission, a live transmission on YouTube, it's actually pretty important for you to keep it on. And now, how about Mr. Soria? Is he already here? Hi.
Yeah, I'm here. How are you? Good. Well, my name is Rodrigo de Soria Rojas. I'm also part of the teacher corpus here at the Normal Superior. So I'm full-time English teacher and language teacher, and I'm happy and proud to say that I'm part of the already formed teachers at the Normal Superior. I got out in 2009, and it's an honor to be part of this panel. That's it.
Thank you, Eder, and so nice to see you again, if only virtually. So we're about to start round number 1 of questions, and I would like to start it by asking the following question to you all. How does the program's curriculum align with current educational standards and teaching methodologies? Mr. Cardenas, would you mind starting this round with your answer? Remember, we have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Carla. And if you allow me, I'm going to share a quick presentation I have here. So, because while I was basically trying to gather the information, I thought that it was very important to have a context, a clear context on our curriculum framework. And so I prepared this quick presentation so that we can start take it from there, right? So as you can see, well, the curriculum 2022 is organized into 5 academic tracks. We have them here, and spans 8 semesters divided into 3 stages. In total, students take 50 subjects and need to invest 296 hours of instruction. The 3 phases in which it is divided starts on phase number 1 called immersion. In this stage, students are introduced to core educational theories, general pedagogical methods, and the basics of English language teaching, early exposure to classroom environments, and it gives them an understanding of educational contexts from the beginning. The second stage is called profundización, and it goes from the 3rd semester to the 6th semester. In this phase, students dive deeper into both theoretical and practical aspects of education. They explore advanced subjects and develop a more comprehensive understanding of teaching methodologies and educational challenges. And in the 3rd phase, students focus more on their trabajo de titulación. They dedicate their time to practical application, research, professional practice, etc. And now let me talk very quickly about these 5 academic tracks. On the first track, called Fundamentos de la Educación, well, this track provides a foundational understanding of educational theories, philosophies, and systems. Students are introduced to bases filosóficas, legales y organizativas del sistema educativo mexicano, and Historia de la Educación en México, Sistema Educativo Mexicano, Propósitos y Contenidos, which cover the Mexican education system and its legal and historical organizational background. In the second academic track, Bases Teóricas y Metodológicas de la Práctica, students focus on the theoretical foundations and methodologies of teaching practice. They take subjects like desarrollo infantil y aprendizaje and pedagogía y didáctica general, which introduce the developmental psychology of learners and general teaching methodologies. Then we move on to the 3rd track called Práctica Profesional y Saber Pedagógico. In this track, they basically, well, students start working with practical teaching experiences and also with theoretical learning. Students are introduced to the classroom environments through acercamiento a la práctica educativa en la escuela secundaria and análisis de prácticas y contextos escolares. These subjects involve observing educational settings and analyzing teaching practices. In the 4th track, students basically work with the language, right? It focuses on English language teaching, pedagogy, and didactics. In the 1st phase, foundational subjects include Introducción a la Lingüística, for example, and then they move on to the 6 levels of linguistic analysis, phonetics and phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics and pragmatics, and so on. And well, that's basically what it does. And in the last track or a pathway, we can say that it basically emphasizes language proficiency and the integration of technology into language teaching. Students begin with practical language skills, and it involves further language development with subjects like fortalecimiento de la confianza en la comunicación, consolidando perspectivas globales, and so on and so forth. And so now that we have this basic, let's say, context of our curriculum, we can approach the answers to these questions more logically, I believe. I think that in order to approach this answer, and I'm going to do it very quickly so that my peers have also time to participate here, is I would see it from the advantages and the areas of opportunity that we can say that it is a holistic development of teaching competence. It has this holistic development through these 5 tracks. It aligns with modern language teaching standards, and it also covers some research and innovation focus, but it also has great areas of opportunities, like, for example, integrating technology and digital literacy in the curriculum. Even though we have some subjects that are devoted to technology, it would be important to have a deeper understanding of how they can use these technologies, particularly nowadays with artificial intelligence, in their own practice. And well, in general, I would say that it needs more explicit global teaching frameworks. Even though the curriculum effectively addresses intercultural competence and global perspectives, there is an opportunity to integrate more explicit training in global education frameworks, such as UNESCO's Global Citizenship Education, the GCED, expanding the focus on teaching in international context. So in an overall view, I would say that it is a strong curriculum, but it also, as everything in life, can benefit from some other aspects that are clearly missing in the curriculum.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Cardenas, for your contribution and for the background. Okay, now I think we'll continue with Ms. Castañón.
Okay.
Remember, it's a 5-minute participation. Okay.
Well done, Carla. Thank you once again for the invitation. Well, according to the question, the Nueva Escuela Mexicana curriculum aligns with the current educational standards and teaching methodologies. Of course, the curriculum, as it has been explained by Professor Humberto Cárdenas, aligns with the curriculum introduced by the Mexican government with the current educational standards and teaching methodologies in several significant ways. Its focus is on providing holistic, inclusive, and transformative education, aiming to address the diverse needs of Mexican students. So, in which ways? There are several ways that are considered to align with the modern standards and practices. So one of them is competency-based education. How is it aligned? Well, the Nueva Escuela Mexicana curriculum emphasizes the development of key competencies in students, such as critical thinking, problem solving, and collaboration. This is in line with modern educational standards that prioritize students' abilities to apply knowledge in real-world context rather than just rote memorization. This is something very important for us to consider as something that it has been underlined. We're going to take distance from this rote memorization style of learning to hands-on education. So, which methodology the Nueva Escuela Mexicana considers is a competency-based education which promotes active experiential learning. which aligns with contemporary methodologies that encourage students to be engaged participants in their own learning processes. The second aspect we can consider, as Humberto has already mentioned, inclusive and intercultural education. How is it aligned? A central tenet of Nueva Escuela Mexicana is inclusively and intercultural understanding, which reflects the global emphasis on equity in education. The curriculum focuses on addressing the specific needs of indigenous, rural, and marginalized students, ensuring that education is tailored to social cultural context learners. The methodologies that has been considered, as we already know, is a humanistic approach, where students' personal and social development is prioritized alongside academic achievements. And then we go to the integration of the 21st century skills. The Nueva Escuela Mexicana curriculum incorporates the skills necessary for the 21st century, such as digital literacy, mentioned already, communication, collaboration, creativity, and innovation. These are essentials for preparing students for a globally interconnected and technological advanced society. The teaching strategies emphasize the use of technology in the classroom and project-based learning, both which are the core of the 21st century educational frameworks. This promotes an interactive and student-centered learning environment. And then we have the social, emotional learning and civic engagement. How is it aligned? Well, the Nueva Escuela Mexicana integrates social emotional learning as part of the overall curriculum, focusing on the emotional well-being of social development students. This reflects global education. The trends that have to be recognized of the importance of emotional intelligence and interpersonal skills in education. Then we have contextualized and place-based learning. And the Nueva Escuela Mexicana emphasized the importance of teaching with context of local realities, which is the most important in this new approach. And the challenge is ensuring that education is relevant to students' lives. This is consistent with current educational standards that promote contextualized learning to make education more meaningful and applicable to students' environment. Then we have the following aspect, focus on environmental and sustainability alignment with the Nueva Escuela Mexicana, again, which includes a strong focus on environmental education, recognizing that global needs for sustainability and environmental stewardship. And the last, formative and continuous assessment, as we already know, is formative assessment, where the students evaluate their own progress along with the teachers in different ways. Thank you.
Thank you for your participation, Ms. Castañón. Now we are going to continue with Mr. Soria. I'll repeat the question real quickly, just in case you've already forgotten. How does the program's curriculum align with the current educational standards and teaching methodologies?
Well, hello everyone again. I'm not gonna try to discuss all the points that have been already established. But for what I'm hearing and what I want to share about is that as Master Idea Peralta said, or their last panelist, they say our students are agents, our learning agents, and also our agents of learning. And what we can see from the current standards that we have is that we are teaching them how to teach to students all over the junior high school level. We're going to teach them how to be part of this global citizenship, how to form them in these educational standards, how to have a sustainable lifestyle, how to fight or how to develop their human rights, gender equality, and all these things. And for that, we need to develop in our students some very important skills that were already mentioned. We have critical thinking, problem solving, and collaborative work. And that's what I want to bring out what Mr. Cardenas showed. That what we have is we have a 3-stage kind of formation. In the first step, we have kind of an immersion. So we have immersion of our students into knowing what are they going to be dealing with, right? What has to do with teaching English? What has to do with how the political and the social structure on our education system and how it works, and also how the teaching of English words, what it consists of, right? This methodology, this phonetics, this morphology. And then we're going to take them in the second stage, that is the in-depth, right? We're going to take them then how to process all that knowledge, because we know knowledge is a complex endeavor. So we have how to in-depth them and how to grow their own skills so they can go to the third part, that is deployment, how they are going to manage to work themselves in order to teach. And that's where it comes the methodology that Ms. Castañón already mentioned, where this task-based, this problem-solving, this content-based, this collaborative learning, this self-organized learning comes in hand. And that's what I see from when we try to match the standards and when we try to match the current educational standards, the program's curriculum, and the teaching methodology. What I see is this cohesion, right? So we're going to teach our students to teach how to become citizens in this global world, right? How to work from problems, to solving problems from their communities, how to solve personal problems, and how to develop these skills to manage it. But we also are going to teach our students we're going to help them develop skills on how to teach these skills. So you see that this kind of this is the core part of teaching training. So we're gonna I don't know how to say it. We're gonna help them to acquire the skills that are embedded into all the programs that we are teaching and were designed in order to form individuals that can help develop as well these skills into the students they're going to be teaching English. And because English is not going to be only the thing they're going to be teaching, they're going to be teaching young kids. They're going to teach the next generation into becoming like good citizens, to become citizens of the world, to become citizens, to turn them into citizens that are reflecting on the world around them, and they want to be part of. They're going to be part of, and they're going to try to solve the needs that are in nowadays society. And I think that's pretty interesting how these 3 elements, these program curriculum, educational standards, and and teaching methodologies meet, and how they are combined into creating these new syllables. I think it's a very interesting endeavor. It's a very interesting thing, and I think there has to be a lot of commitment from both parts, from students and on our side for us, if we want to manage this. If we want to achieve this goal. That would be it. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Eder. Sorry, time's up. The moment you mentioned something about students being or becoming agents of their own learning process, that reminded me of Noam Chomsky's distinction between indoctrination and teaching, where teaching is actually something that involves a critical thinking process in them, right? Well, that was just it. And we're about to start with the second round. Thank you all for your valuable answers. And to continue, I would like to ask you the following question. How well do trainees demonstrate the ability to reflect on their teaching practices and adjust accordingly? In this round, we'll follow a different order. We're going to start with Ms. Castañon, okay?
Well, interesting question. Reflective practice is a core component of teacher development, as it leads continuous growth and improvement. The Escuela Normal Superior de México English trainees are trained to develop metacognitive awareness, allowing them to reflect critically on their teaching methods and student outcomes. Reflecting teaching is grounded in the work of Donald Shawn, reflective practitioner, model with emphasis both reflection in action and on action. Initial observation of these trainees suggests that they engage self-assessment and peer feedback, which are critical tools in fostering reflective practice. For example, after delivering a lesson, trainees are encouraged to analyze their work and why their work functioned or didn't function. This reflective cycle is the key to adopting a growth mindset, as described by Carol Dweck, and allows teachers, trainees, to adjust their practice in a meaningful way. However, the degree to which they successfully adjust to their practice varies. Some trainees do deep research on the language teaching programs, on theories of teaching, and this helps them to reflect upon what they do. But sometimes we have students who don't go deep into theory research in order to analyze their practicum. Consequently, the results of this reflection is weak. Nevertheless, we encourage the students to seek information and look for those methodologies that make sense to them in order to improve their practice. Practice is important for them, so Escuela Normal Superior de México provides them opportunities to go out of the school to practice in diverse institutions around Mexico. So the reflection that they carry out onto their practicum, it is reflected at the end of their formation when they build this report, as all of us know, where they make sense and improvements and suggest different ways to improve language teaching. So thank you. Support.
There you go. Well, you're saying that metacognition and like some kind of teaching awareness is what most students would need, right? So that they can use those strategies in their teaching practice, right? Mr. Soria, it is now your turn.
Well, I agree on some of the points, but I really want to emphasize something. If we want to talk about ability, we also have to talk about the lack of an ability, right? So when we say the lack of an ability can be seen in both ways, in two ways. First of all, it can be seen and it can be taken as a weakness. We can say, that this student has a lack and it needs to be grown. And also, the lack of an ability can be seen as can be something that drives someone towards growth, right? To become something better. And why do I mention this? Because if we want to describe our students, if we want to talk about our students' ability to reflect and to analyze their practice, we need to consider them. And there's one word that I would like to use to describe our students, is to be diverse. They are really diverse. They come from different backgrounds. They come from personal paradigms that they struggle sometimes with some things like their academic background, where they need to develop more skills. Sometimes they need to develop one skill that we can think that is like essential that they have to by the time they arrive at the normal superior. We say, well, they are critical, they are analytical, they can observe, they can reflect on this. Sometimes those skills are not fully developed, and that's when it becomes like something a struggle that we find here. And when we say that they have the ability to reflect, practice, and adjust accordingly, sometimes those are like the core elements that we need to consider in their formation, right? Because the students have some of these skills. They can infer, they are able to observe, they are able to reason about what they are dealing with. They know the content, but sometimes they cannot be that immersive, that they observe what happens in school, but they need more to take hand to hand, go hand to hand, and to help them to develop those skills. And that's why teaching training is a must. It's important. So if we know and we acknowledge that our students have a set of skills that are already there and they can work on, but we need to focus more on what are the skills that they are needing. So what are they doing in order to develop a better, I don't know, a deeper inference level, a better communication, to be more precise, to be more focused on when they're making decisions towards their practices. And I think we have this really good opportunity by the time they start practicing. We have a good opportunity to have them analyze and infer about their own practices. But we need to be certain of what skills are we developing on them and how the programs are helping us in order to achieve that I don't know how to say, that skill growth. Because otherwise we have students that keep struggling with some of the elements. And it doesn't matter if the syllabus is beautifully built. If we don't take into consideration how students are coming, how our students, what's their personal background, how's their academic background, the age, the social environment where they are coming, we need to adjust. As teachers, we face adjustment as a daily basis, and that's a must that we also have to consider. That's why sometimes students, they don't get to make adjustment as we wish to them for, because we're still lacking some of the skills that we need to continue grow on them. And I think that's paramount. I think we need to continue that part, and that could be it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Eder. And well, you were naming different scales and how difficult it is sometimes to acknowledge or to notice their existence in our students when sometimes they don't make use of them, like, or at least they don't display them in our classrooms, like critical thinking skills. How can you tell whether they are actually critical thinkers, right? So I think that we as teachers should also consider the strategies so that they can exploit them, right? Or at least start to make use of them in the classroom.
Yeah, you should. That's for sure.
Thank you. And Mr. Cardenas?
Thank you, Carla. Well, yes, definitely. I agree with my teacher colleagues. In order to answer this question, I think we need to be aware of the golden opportunity that we have right now in our Escuela Normal Superior de Mexico, which is having actually two different curriculums working at the same time. Right now, we can see that this curriculum, the 2022, is only in its 5th semester, while we're also teaching the 7th semester of the 2018 curriculum. And when we have this opportunity, it's impossible not to compare both curriculums and what they are doing with our students and how they are coming along with their development as teachers. And I think that we can talk about reflection and see reflection when we analyze for example, conclusions in their final projects, when they are finishing their major and they present either a thesis or a report of their practices. And I believe that it is a great opportunity, area of opportunity, because I think that we are not really teaching our students to systematically work with reflection. Sometimes it is believed or there may be this misconception of what reflection is. And reflection has nothing to do with mindfulness. Reflection in the teaching practice has nothing to do with connecting with the universe and just having this romantic idea of reflection. In order for reflection to become a tool for teaching improvement, it has to be systematic. It has to be not only systematic, it has to go through the whole major, starting with the 1st semester and finishing with students in the 8th semester. And not only teaching them that there are different models or cycles proposed in the theory to perform reflection, but also teach them what they can do with the results of the reflection. Because sometimes the reflection, when we read these final projects, we see that the reflection is very shallow sometimes in some cases. I'm not saying every student has or performs the same degree of reflection, but let's say in general, the reflection that we can see in these final projects is not deep at all. And one would expect that at the end of their major, students would actually have become reflective teachers. And that, I think, is not happening. It may have to do with the fact that we are, as teachers, not promoting reflection, as I said, systematically during the practices. I also think that the lack of guides or let's say partners in their practicas, right? As we could see it. What I mean is there aren't enough teachers to go and sit with the students at the secundarias, right? And I think that is a big problem because then we don't have a lot of time to give them enough feedback and to make them also reflect on their own practice. So I would propose, in fact, I want to say this. In fact, that we've just formed at Escuela Normal Superior de Mexico a research group. It's a newly research group in which I'm working, and Professor Erika Corona and Professor Ramon Carmona, who is in Spanish, in the Spanish specialty or major, let's say, we've formed this research group, and precisely our main topic, or the first topic we're working with, is reflective teaching. And so things we've encountered, well, we need to give the students more structured frameworks on for ongoing reflection. We need to expand reflective practice in relation to, for example, technology. we need to have a broader focus on differentiated instruction, how they do and how they can approach their practice from the first semester and until the 8th semester, until the end. And we also need to strengthen reflective feedback loops, having these cycles to actually make them used to reflecting, not only before the practice, but also during the practice, and of course, as it is expected after their practice, and of course, encourage self-directed feedback mechanisms, which will make them stronger and more, let's say, level-headed teachers in the future.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cardenas. So according to you, reflection has to be a continuous process, right? Not only, not something to be done just before practicums, for example, or after that, but a constant process, right? Okay, so we are about to start the Ms. Castañón.
Well, I would like to add something. Something that is extremely difficult for the students to carry out is the consciousness of the importance of reading the theory that is going to help them understand what they are doing. They are invited, the students at the very beginning, they are invited to consider theories in order to observe reality. What do I mean with to observe reality? When they enter to a classroom, they have to open their eyes and look for signs that they have perceived in theories. And if they don't see it, reflect upon it. But this has to do with attitude. So we have to work on attitude of the student to make this visualization of the reality of in the classrooms something strange. This strange aspect becomes something meaningful for them according to the educational situation they are observing. So to carry out a reflective practice, it takes a long way, but it depends from the student. If you are willing to carry it out, it will work. But if you wait until the 7th semester to start reflecting, it's going to be very difficult. So our challenge nowadays in our new curriculum is to invite the students to formally reflect upon what they are observing and to give them feedback constantly in order to transform this new vision or the demands of the Nueva Escuela Mexicana. Because now that they are going to be working through projects, they have a lot of things to do. So they have to change the world they perceive education. Now, as I mentioned at the very beginning, we are not in the trend of memorization. We are in the trend of doing. And doing means acting. And acts mean love. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And well, I would say the way I see it, and from what I just heard, that there's going to be like empirical evidence, for example, or empirical experiences, right? There's going to be theory and there's going to be practice, right? I think that those are the three elements that are going to lead us to a true reflection, right? Well, we're about to start our third and last round of questions. And well, how well do the practical teaching components prepare trainees for the complexities of real-world teaching environments? And well, Eder is going to start with his answer in this round.
Okay, thank you. Well, if we're going to talk about the practical teaching component, I will say one of the practical teaching components has to be modeling. Modeling is a very important thing. So in order that we have students to know how real teaching is, not only taken from what they observe on the secondary schools when they practice, for what they are they are mentioned that teaching needs from the teachers that share and manage the theory. We need to have them to know what real teaching is according to some like modeling examples, because sometimes reality is not as we set them. It's not as we tell them that reality is. We tell them that in nowadays secondary schools, where they're gonna face dealing with the new syllabus, with the Nueva Escuela Mexicana, and what happens that they prepare and they focus, they prepare their content, they prepare their activities and everything else, and by the time that they reach to the secundaria, what happens that they face a different environment. So they face teachers who are still teaching in a, we can say, traditional way. We're facing classes that are aiming to developing just, I don't know, grammar focused activities. And this creates a shock, like, because the students, they get like shocked and say like, oh, okay. Well, and then we say, well, what happened? What do we need to grow? From my point of view, also being a secondary school, a junior high school teacher for quite a time in the past, I have to say that it has to deal with two things. First of all, has to be enrichment, and the other part, it has to be adequate. Because we need to keep on, I don't know, we need to teach them that teaching actually has to do, well, I don't know, practice teaching has to do with three elements from my point of view again. So first of all, has to be experience. The another one has to be with preparation, and the other one has to do with knowledge. Why experience? Because in the experience, having experience model through the teacher, the experience obtained by their first practices, their first encounter with the actual teaching, is they're gonna give us like an enrichment on analysis and an observation. They're gonna share us what are they gonna find in the real world, right? And in order to have this analysis and this observation to be keen and to be very precise, we need to help them, giving them techniques and tools. We need to provide them instruments so they can observe and they can analyze, right? Then we move to knowledge. So we need to constantly have them I don't know, I'm gonna say it as an example. But what I always teach my trainee teachers to do before they practice is to say, you don't have to know all the English in the world, but what you have to know is what you're going to teach. So whatever it is, if you're gonna you're gonna teach about natural disasters, you're gonna teach about present simple, present continuous. Okay, you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be a C1 level English knower. So what you need to know is what you're going to teach. You have to prepare yourself. You have to refine constantly. You have to enrich. You have to adequate your knowledge of English, and you have to master the process where this English is gonna be taught. And then we're gonna move to preparation, right? So we have to help them model their practice. We have to help them by giving them feedback. So the first feedback that comes is when they prepare their classes, you tell them, you know what, I don't think this is gonna be relevant because you're teaching it in a way that is kind of not adequate, and you need to move it, you need to improve it, you need to change it. So if you see, it is a process. The practical teaching component has to do with the process of analyzing the practice and enriching the practice and enriching the experience, enriching the preparation, enriching knowledge for students, because I don't know, reflective on observation is I don't know, it's a process. It has to do with the whole process. And if we want them to teach in the real world, what we need to do is to prepare them to face the real world. We need to have them processing what they know about the English, how they prepare the classes, and what they are going to face in the real world, how students that they're going to teach are going to behave, how the tutor teachers that they're going to find in the schools is going to ask them to do. So that's why enrichment has to be a must. And I think that's something that we're still, in some points, we're still lacking on how to drive them into develop these different stages. And I don't know, we need to have them enrichment through experience. And I think that could be my contribution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Heather. So basically what you're saying is that we have to teach students or to let them know that they have to be or that they have to expect the unexpected, right? So probably equipping students with adaptation strategies is the best thing to do as future teacher trainers, right? Well, thank you so much, Heather. And I think that for the next two participations, I will allow myself to interrupt you when your time is about to end, for we are running out of time right now. Humberto?
Thank you, Carla. Thank you very much. Well, yes, I think it's a difficult question to answer, right? How well do the practical teaching components prepare trainees for their complexities of real-world teaching environments? We have here quite a collection of variables, but I would say that this curriculum, well, we don't know. If we're talking about the curriculum 2021, we still don't know what it will happen in the future. What we can see is what has happened with the curriculum 2018, and I think that this curriculum has an advantage. Both curricula have an advantage, which is they start their practices in their first semester, and it's an ongoing practice until the 8th semester. And that's something that you don't see in many other programs. I can speak for myself. I majored at UNAM in the major of English teaching, and students there do not start practices until let's say they start practicing at the end of their major, right? So we have a great advantage here. Students face the context, the educational context from the very first semester. So that means they are able to understand whether they want to be teachers or not from day number one, from the first week of their practices. And this is an advantage. Now, how well do the practical teaching components prepare them? It also has to do, I think, with the different contexts. The context in which our students teach is a very changeable context. It moves a lot. It depends a lot on the school they are teaching at. And being in Mexico, where we have all these different economic areas, it can be very difficult for our new students to know exactly how to prepare themselves for their practicas, but they can see it from the very beginning, and so this is a great advantage. I think we should take advantage of going with our students from the first semester and until the end with this experience, in-class experience. And well, we know it's not an easy stage. I always tell my students, I am your biggest fan, because teaching in a secondary school is a great challenge, especially if you're not an experienced teacher. So what I see them do is amazing sometimes, right? With all the problems they face and the shifting realities, let's say. So let's see. So the answer would be, let's wait and see what happens once we reach the 8th semester with this new plan, and we need to take full advantage and just be with them and be really tutors in terms of teaching development.
Thank you so much, Umberto, especially for highlighting this, I would say, underrated advantage that we have as normalistas over other programs. Like sending our students to the real life kind of thing before they graduate. Okay. And well, Ms. Castañón, with the same question, please.
Okay, in order to conclude, I agree with my classmates, my colleagues, sorry. It is difficult to answer this question. I apologize, my dear. When we think about classroom management skills, adaptation to diverse learners, lesson planning, and handling administrative tasks, and how to practical components prepare trainees for this, in a very complex world that we are living today, I don't think that is a recipe for this. Why? Because the teacher nowadays has to be well prepared in order to face the complexity of the behavior of the student who he or she is going to guide. So he has to be very well balanced within himself in order not to take any reaction or any behavior of the student, a teenager, in a negative way. And nowadays, if you touch the student goes and tells their parents, the professor touched me and he's being called or even asked to be move out of the school for this action. So these elements, when you think how well are the practical teaching components prepared students, future English teachers, or any type of teachers, well, we are lacking a lot of areas of opportunities to strengthen or to empower this future English teacher in our case. I was thinking how well prepare our future English teachers on carrying out a project. Do they understand what a project is? Are we all willing to work with others in order to carry out a project? If I'm going to be working with the art teacher, if I'm going to be working with the mathematics teacher, and so on, in order to carry out a project? Do I know how to establish the project? Heather was telling us we need to model. As a teacher, in a higher levels education, I consider my students not to have a model in order to follow. But at secondary school, they must have a model in order to carry out this process in an effective way, so the students have the opportunity to learn. And what are they going to be learning through this project? So many abilities, so many values. They will start learning respect. We are going to the listening ability, and we are going to respect others on what they say, and socialize what they said in order to make an agreement on how to work. This sounds like something that is all very common, but we do not respect what others say because we want to impose our saying. Some students think it's a great value, their ideas, and they want to carry out these ideas, and others don't. So modeling in a secondary school is a must. For me, is a question of inviting future English teachers or any other teacher to think out of the box. How am I going to cope with this project? And question myself, what is a project? And this invites the students to go and read the theory in order to make an understanding through the socialization of what a project is and how it should be carried out and how to implement it in the secondary school. I focus in my answer in a project work because I think somebody asked this question: how are projects being worked through in secondary schools? Many teachers wonder, what is a project? Do we have a clear understanding what a project is in order to carry out? So to conclude, there are still many areas of opportunities that we need to consider in order to guide or to consider that we have a practical teaching component that guides the students to face the real world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Castañón. And well, just real quickly, some of our fellow teachers that are following us through the YouTube channel are saying that, well, this was a big idea, like having ENSM English teachers that can share their points of view, their thoughts and perspectives on English teaching. Well, thank you again for these inspiring perspectives and experiences shared with us today. I'm sure all of our teachers, students, and audience will take your opinions into consideration. To conclude our panel, I would like to thank you for your time this afternoon. And as we conclude, I would like to ask our speakers, Humberto, Diana, and Rodrigo, to please remain in the room to receive their certificates of participation from our MC, Carolina Maturano. Thank you so much.
Gracias. Compartimos pantalla, por favor. La Autoridad Educativa Federal en la Ciudad de México, a través de la Dirección General de Educación Normal y Actualización del Magisterio, otorgan el presente reconocimiento a Diana Castañón López, panelista, Humberto Cárdenas Tarraza, panelista, Rodrigo Eder Soria Rojas, panelista, y a Carla Joana Hernández Pérez, moderadora, por su participación en el panel de experiencias docentes de la Licenciatura en Enseñanza del Inglés de la Escuela Normal Superior de México, Evaluating the Effectiveness of Teacher Training Programs, Curriculum Alignment, Reflective Practices, and Real Work Preparedness, en el marco del cuarto conversatorio de inglés Building Collaborative Networking Among English Normal Teachers, construir comunidades de colaboración entre docentes de inglés en las escuelas normales, que se llevó a cabo en modalidad virtual. Firma Eugenio Aurelio López López, Director General, Ciudad de México, octubre 2024. Muchas gracias. También agradecemos la participación de maestras y maestros de escuelas normales, centros regionales de los diferentes niveles de educación básica, quienes nos están acompañando a través del canal de YouTube. Desde Baja California, Nuevo León, Guanajuato, Aguascalientes, San Luis Potosí, Jalisco, Puebla, Tabasco, Campeche, así como de Veracruz, Estado de México, Ciudad de México, Hidalgo, Sonora, Querétaro, Coahuila, Morelos, Tlaxcala, Nayarit, Quintana Roo y Zacatecas. De igual manera, saludamos a quienes nos ven desde los Estados Unidos y Canadá. Gracias a todos por estar con nosotros esta tarde. Continuamos con nuestro programa. Presentamos ahora el bloque 4 de ponencias sobre perspectivas docentes. Para ello, doy de nuevo la bienvenida y cedo la palabra al moderador de esta actividad, Carlos da Silva Elvas, de la Dirección General de Educación Normal y Actualización del Magisterio. Adelante.
Good afternoon. We are going to continue with this fourth Conversatorio de Inglés with the fourth block of talks. We give now the most warmful welcome to the normal teachers who are going to present their talks today. Each speaker has 20 minutes to deliver her presentation. If there is time left, we will select some questions from the YouTube chat for each speaker. We have 3 participants in this block. Talk number 1, or talk number 10, transforming the way we measure learning, brought by teacher Lydia Samantha Leon Benavides From Centenaria Escuela Normal del Estado de Querétaro, Andrés Valvanera, en Querétaro. Welcome, teacher Lydia.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here.
We are happy to have you here. Please, you may start.
Perfect. I'm going to share screen.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here. This is my first time in this type of events, so I'm a bit nervous, but here I am. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about some tools that might be really helpful for us to evaluate learning, but not only in the traditional way, but transforming the way we do it. Okay, and why did I talk about transforming? No, because for all these years we have been evaluating, we have been assessment the things our students do to see how much they have learned. No, so we've been looking to assessment as like of learning. No, but we need to transform it. We need to think about assessment as something in which our students can be active, can reflect on their own learning, can self-assess them, can set goals to improve what they are doing, not only in English, but in any other kind of subject. No? We know that quizzes, exams, and all those things, and grades, no, these final grades are related to traditional schooling, but now we need to change it, not only to see, okay, how much correct answers do you have or how much incorrect ones, but let's make them think, no, because this is learning to learn, and we need to work with them each and every day to make them more responsible of their own learning, no? But we as teachers, we also need to measure learning because we also need to have information, have important data for our decisions as teachers. So we all know that we have challenges when we talk about evaluation. No, time, especially now that instead of having 4 hours per week, we only have, 6 hours per week, we only have 4 hours. So we lack of time every day. The way that students feel every time they listen to, oh, we're having a quiz, we're having an exam, anxiety comes next. No, we also need to think about effectiveness versus efficiency. So to make our life as teachers easier. And also about methodological issues. And as I'm going to share some tools, to use technology in learning assessment and to make our life easier, not only as teachers, but we can also provide these tools to our students because we are teacher educators. No, we cannot leave this part apart. We know that we can also help them to improve their classes, to improve their lessons in all the subjects they are working with. So the following tools, Plickers and Quizzes, they both work kind of the same way. No, they are really helpful because students do not need to have a device. They do not need to have Wi-Fi connection. We as teachers, we can collect real-time data. It is something fun. And I always think about having something different in class, making classes more dynamic, but it is not only having fun and fun and fun, because this is not the circus. No? I always ask them, after this activity, what have you learned? Have you reflected on your own performance? Have you reflected on the things you need to change or improve? So students feel engaged. At the beginning, it is not a time saver because you need to work a little bit on one or the other, but later on, you will see that you have a great library there and that you can use it for any other classes during the following semesters. And well, teachers can easily gauge students' understanding. So you will see that this is something I think really useful for us as teachers, no matter which subject we are working with. So because of the time, I'm going to talk only about one of them, but both work in a similar way. Plickers is a website in which you can have your classes and prepare your questions, and then using your phone in class with the application and some cards, you can scan the students' results and you can review the results with the students. And also later on, if you really need to reflect on the things your students have been doing on or their students' achievement. Yes? Here you have the site. You can just scan the QR code or go to the site and select to create your account. You only need your Google account. You click on log in with your Google account or sign in with your Google account and you will get it. But before I explained it, like the theory, I'm going to show you a video and I'm going to stop it only a few seconds, minutes. And I'm going to stop it and explain a little bit more so you can see this thing in action. Okay, so you're going to watch this video, not from the beginning, because I just need you to take a look at this. If you see, this is the teacher's phone. He has the questions there and multiple choice. And then you're going to see how it works with the students.
Questions in on the app, you can just do it on the computer, but then you can queue them up for your actual class. I like to start with a simple, fun question that students can answer. It says, what do you normally eat for breakfast? When I click on that, it will actually project the question up on the board.
And if you see, you have the question and the options. So each student with the card that you give them, or you give him or her, will choose the correct answer or the answer that he wants to choose, no, A, B, C, or D. Then your phone will scan it, and on the board, each student will see his or her name if he has already answered the question.
And so I can read it and I can tell the students, all right, go ahead and pick the one that you want. I tell the students to hold it up based on the answer that they have. And then when I'm ready to scan, I'll just come back to the app. I'll click the little camera button and it can actually read all of.
So if you pay attention, as he scans the answers, you only see a blue button. But when you have right or wrong answers, you can see the red ones for those who got it incorrect and the green ones for those who have it correct. So you have the information in that specific moment. No, you say, oh my God, no, this is not possible. No, like oh, red, red, red. Or you say, oh, this is really good, like green, green, green.
Of their answers, even pretty far away. Seeing if it's right or wrong, this question doesn't have a right or wrong answer. Of course, souls is probably the correct answer for what you eat for breakfast. But since there's no right or wrong answer, it doesn't show up as green or red. If I click on stop, now I can actually see the data of who answered what. We've got a lot of soul eaters. And what's really cool is if I hit show graph, it'll actually show how many people.
And then you can also discuss, instead of just showing the correct answer, discuss with the students. Okay, take a look at the graph. So how many people answered this one or this other one? and why do you think most people chose this one or the other one? So it's also about reflecting. So you can take this activity for a long activity in class or for quite to reflect and discuss on the answers, or as a quick traditional quiz in which you can get the answers and each student can reflect on his or her own learning. No, I'm going to stop it now to show you, because it's like half of the talk now, to show you the rest of the slides. As you could see in the video, you need to create an account in Plickers or Quizzes. It's the same, yes. And it says create new classes as step number 3. Oh my God, am I going to type my student's name? Am I going to ask them to send me his or her emails? No, if you already work with Classroom, and most of us do, we just import our classes and suddenly we have all the students there with the card number. So if we do it periodically, then our students get used to it. You already leave the cards there and you say, take your own card, and they know which number they have. So it saves time. No, they know I'm number 10, I'm number 5. So they pick his or her own card, and you're gonna have an individual report to see how each student is doing. No? So you see, you can import from Google Classroom. You can have as many classes as you want with the free account. And you saw that you have to scan the answers. So each student has one card. You have up to 62 cards. So I think it's perfect for our big classrooms. And if you see, each card has a number with A, B, C, or D, which are the 4 options. So every student has a unique card. You can laminate them and use them for as many years as you want. That's why I said at the beginning, yes, first you have to work, but then you have everything done. You just have a bag with your cards. You take them from one class to the other, and you can use them every time that you want to. Because we not only need to use them for content, you can create any type of questions that you want, you will see. No? Then you will have your library, you create your questions. With the free account, you can create 5 questions and that's it. But if you have one topic and you need 10 questions, you create 5, part 1, and then some other 5, part 2. Yes, and you can think about anything you want. You had a reading task, no, that they had to do at home. Okay, so let's create some questions, not the low order thinking skill questions, but we can also work on high order thinking skill questions and see which students are getting better, no, than the others, and which type of questions we need to work with more to work on, for example, critical thinking. No, if you see with this image, we can choose images, video, sounds, GIFs, no, to work with any type of subject you want to. Once you have your questions, and you will see that at the beginning you have to create them, but once you have your library, you have like a full set of questions that you can choose and add them to the queue in your classes and start working with them. In your phone, you'll also need to download the application, and once you have it, you select the class, add the question, project them, and you start working as you saw it in the video. When you have your classes, like in this example, you have period 2 math, play now, and you have a standalone question example. You click on play now, you will see it on the board, and you can start working with the students. And you can take as long as you want. If you want to do it fast, you have 5 questions and that's it. But if you want to like reflect on each one and do not give them the correct answer until they have done a little bit more of it, it's even better, no? As I told you, you will see the green ones, that means they are correct. The red ones, that means they are incorrect. And you can have the statistics, no? 50% average, 7 responses. You can show the graph, how many people answer correctly with the green bar and how many people answer incorrectly. Which answer was it? No, A, B, C, or D. You can also have your live feedback and you can get detailed reports, no? For each question, for each student, so you really know how this thing is working. And I repeat, not only to have a grammar or vocabulary, but any other kind of subject you might think, no? So let's see the good side of things. We are teachers and we know that our workload is huge, no? And we need to see everything as a burden. We can make our life easier and we can use technology. But we also need to think about our context. And we know that in escuelas normales, our students cannot use their devices because there is no a Wi-Fi connection. So we can change it. And I know it was quite a fast talk, and maybe with more time we could have done more. Even we could have worked on some questions. No, planning can help us as teachers become more productive, because as I told you at the beginning, you have to work a lot, maybe. But later on, you already have your library, you already have your cards. Believe me, students really enjoy it. They see it as a different activity. But once we do this fun thing, we also reflect with them. No, we also worked on the metacognitive part and help them become more responsible and more active. I always tell them now, it's not just getting the 6 or the 7 or the 10th, because we know that sometimes that number does not mean what we think it means. No, students become more responsible, and we all know that a well-organized class is a great assist. No, thank you so much. I think my time is perfect. I didn't take longer. Thank you for your attention. And here you have my information. Whatever you need, I'm really happy to help. Thank you so much, Maestro Carlos da Silva.
Thank you. So, Lydia Samantha Leon Benavides, about transforming the way we measured learning. Thank you very much for coming. To continue with this round of talks, we have talk number 11, integrating critical thinking about gender equity in English language learning, practical approaches, and classroom activities. Brought by teacher Claudia Paulino Navarro Núñez from Escuela Normal Rural Miguel Hidalgo in Aquetiza, Jalisco. Welcome, teacher. You may start your talk.
Hi, thank you everybody for being here this afternoon. Thank you so much to the GENAM for providing us with this valuable space of conversation. And
Thank you.
I'm going to start sharing my
Okay.
screen. Yes, as Professor Da Silva said, my name is Paulina Navarro, and I work at the Normal Rural of Atequiza in Jalisco. So today I will be presenting integrating gender equity, critical thinking into English language learning. How do we do this? Can language learning develop a sense of criticism towards one's culture? This is the question I would like to start with today. And to answer it, I'd like to share an experience I had some years ago. So I had the great fortune of studying my master's in Germany, and the scholarship included a couple of months of studying the language there. So I was there in my German class, and we were just international students learning German. I was sitting next to my Mexican friend, and in one point of the class, my teacher, who was this German proper gentleman, wearing his suit and everything, addressed me. And he was calling me Frau Navarro. Yeah. For those who aren't related to the German language, Frau is the word for, is equivalent to Mrs. in English, yeah, or to señora in Spanish. I knew there was a word for señorita that is Fräulein. I was learning it before, and back then I was younger. And as I said, I came from Mexico, which is very important in the context, because obviously when he called me señora, I was looking at my Mexican friend and we were both like, and I was thinking like, why is he calling me señora? That's how old I look or what? The teacher obviously perceived this and he was like uncomfortable for a second, and the class kept going. And at the end of the class, he approached us, me and my friend. And he said, okay, I saw that you were feeling awkward during the class when I addressed you as Frau. And I want to explain you that in Germany, we do have the word Fräulein, but is nowadays outdated. Yeah, it's no longer used. Why? Because from some years ago, the women in this country ask themselves, why do we have to be named differently if we are married or we are not married? Yeah, we don't want that. So we are just going to have one title for all the women. Doesn't matter if she's 15 or if she's 60, we just call it Frau. And that was very interesting. Yeah, that really got me thinking. I was like, wow, I was never thinking it in that way. That's true. That's true. Why do we have to be named differently, either if we are married or we are not married? Yeah. Or if we are young or old, that it's somehow how it's used nowadays in Mexico, you know? And yeah, that's true. Men don't have that. Yeah, men are only called Mr. or Señor in Spanish, right? We did have Señorito, but that's like ages ago, right? Centuries ago. It's not longer used. And then I started teaching English, and then this comes, you know, in my textbook. I need to teach titles to my students. And this is an image I have taken from my textbook. And as you can see, we have 3 different titles for women. We have Mrs., we have Miss for single woman, and we have Ms., yeah, for no making difference. And for men, we only have 1. So when I present this to my students, based on my experience, I tell them about this. And I ask them, why do you think this is like this? Have you ever thought about it? And this starts raising the question, yeah? And this is the way I want to address the talk this afternoon. There are ways to start raising this critical thought about gender equity, okay? And I have another example, yeah? Learning occupations, one of the first things we also learn in English too. Also, when I was learning German, oh my God, just one second. I learned the word Hausmann. Yeah, and I was also surprised. I was like, wow, they have a word for Hausmann. And I tried to look for it in Spanish. You see, this is an image from Google Translate. And turns out there's no translation for houseman. It translates it as ama de casa. Yeah, so German is similar to English in several words. Man is one of them. So man is man in English. Yeah, so it doesn't exist in Spanish. And apparently it doesn't exist in English either, because Google Translate doesn't have it either. This is the image I got from the Dictionary of Cambridge. And yeah, it translated as homemaker. Yeah, I don't know how accurate is that, but that is how it translated. Yeah, so again, this raises questions. You name things that you have. Yeah, you name things that you see them enough that is worth naming them, right? We don't have a word for it. And well, how important is it to raise awareness about gender equity in our classrooms? Well, I would say very. Yeah, gender equality is one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals to be achieved by 2030. Yeah, this is from the United Nations. And it's worth mentioning that 2030 is just 6 years away from us. When I first learned about these Sustainable Development Goals, it was back in 2011. It seemed so far away. And when I was preparing this presentation, I suddenly realized that 2030 is just around the corner. And well, it is also one of the articulating axes of the Nueva Escuela Mexicana, together with interculturalidad crítica, by the way. So I think it is important. Yeah, we have it in our laws. You see it everywhere. We have a Ley General de Igualdad entre Hombres y Mujeres in Mexico. And nevertheless, we teachers think that is somehow gonna pop in magically in students' head. Yeah, because we seldom address it, and not to say never in our classrooms. So I know how important it is time for us teachers. Very important. We are often short of time, and we have a lot of contents to teach in one semester, and in Normales, I think we need to agree, we have a lot of other different activities like social and cultural activities, no? Besides the academic activities, our classes. So time is an issue for us. So I have some examples that are easy to apply in your classroom and that hopefully you can use, and they will not take a lot of time from your time class. Okay, so the first one is, as I exemplified before, when you start analyzing and comparing languages, you don't even need to talk about the culture. Yeah, the differences arise to your eyes and you start learning about the culture, about the way these people that speak this language are thinking. So one example, just to name one, is in Spanish, we have gendered nouns, and not only nouns, we have adjectives and we have articles also. So for occupations, for example, we have la secretaria, el secretario, yeah? And in English, in most of the occupations, we don't have gendered nouns. It's just the teachers, the students, the doctors, although we do have some that are gendered, like waiter and waitress, or actor and actress. There are some exceptions, and it's an interesting question to start thinking why some and why not. When I was learning English, for example, I remember one of the first questions that arose, it was, you make a simple sentence and you say, well, yeah, yesterday I went to visit a friend. A male friend or a girlfriend? You don't specify it. Yeah, it's not implicit there. And this comes very handy if you are explaining to your boyfriend. But I don't know, I was thinking about this. I was maybe thinking that for in the English language, it's not so important to specify the gender. I don't know. Yeah, there is a plural too. For Spanish, we use the male version, yeah, the masculine version. We say los estudiantes, yeah, and that implies all, women and male. And in English, we just have the students. And I know this is a topic that is being addressed nowadays, and I know that it raises a lot of controversy. I just say that it's worth questioning it. And I know that all the languages, or most of the languages, I don't know them all, that come from Latin have these gendered nouns, and they have this, that the plural comes from the masculine. Yeah, but I think it's worth questioning why. Activity number 2. Select words that are typically for men or for women. And we have here again some images I took from my textbook, household chores. So make a list, review vocabulary, and separate the activities that you think that are mostly performed by women and by men. Yeah, leisure activities. Okay, what activities are mostly performed by women or by men? Items. What items are mostly used by women or men, and we show them a brush or a football or a stove or a screwdriver, and we might get surprised. Yeah, they might be thinking about something different that we think, and that is interesting. Occupations, again, I love this image. I also took it from my textbook, and this one at the top, because I was performing it recently, and I was showing them some flashcards, and they had to say what occupation was it. And I showed them this one, that is a woman in a suit, and 90% of the students answered a secretary. Yeah, and if you turn the flashcard, it says a manager. And this repeats semester after semester. The students always, most of them, say a secretary. So if you just take some minutes to question them and tell them, why do you think a woman in a suit is a secretary? Would you think the same if it were a man in a suit? We have as number 3, surveys. Who does these household chores in your house? Who washes the dishes? Who cleans the house? Yeah, let's get them speaking. Yeah, they can go around asking classmates, who washes the dishes in your house? Who takes out the garbage? Who goes out to work? And then you can analyze these answers. We can also do it with occupations. How many female bus drivers have you ever seen? How many mechanics have you ever seen? These are very basic activities we can perform with beginner students, and for more advanced, then we can ask them about their perceptions. Who do you think should do the household chores at home, and why? Yeah, about parenting. If the father or the mother needs to stay at home taking care of the children, who should do it? Why? Should men have longer paternity leaves? Yeah. As number 4, we have charades or role plays. We can always ask them to perform a man or a woman and see what are their perceptions. How would they represent them? We can ask them to draw occupations again, draw a doctor, draw a nurse, draw a teacher. As number 5, we have some videos, and these videos, it's important to say, they don't need to be long films, long complicated language films. I am going to show you a 1-minute advertisement that was broadcasted in the United States during the Super Bowl that raised a lot of controversy. You're going to see it now. Okay, so you can start a discussion with this. Do you agree? And it was a 30-second video, not a 1 minute. It was 30 seconds. Of course, we have group discussions, we have debates. You can make them do posters on specific topics. This I'm showing you, I did it with my students a couple of years ago. It was during the pandemic, and I asked them to do a poster regarding the 25th of November, the International Day Against Violence towards Women. And it was very interesting. I loved this activity, because I had them doing research first about this specific day. Most of them didn't know about it. So they had to research what it was about and then do research about this problem. They had to research terms. They had to learn how to use these very useful tools like Canvas or PictoChart, selecting information, performing their own posters. And it was very rewarding to see what they did. These are some of the posters that they did. I have to say that I was thrilled because this was even an optional activity. Of course, they had some extra points, and when they finished their, for the best of them. But
we have 2 more
running
minutes
out of time? 2 minutes. Okay. Yeah, I can finish. And well, this is the last idea. I got it from your presentations that I was seeing in the previous talks. You were talking about AI and the importance of integrating it into your classes. I just opened DALL-E, that is this image creator from ChatGPT, and this is what it gets. You can ask them to do prompts. I told him, draw a typical pilot, and this is what I get. Here's the image of a typical airline pilot standing confidently at an airport runway. Can you draw a nurse? This is what it gets us. Please draw a primary school good teacher. This is what we get. Could you please draw a successful doctor? This is what we get. Please draw a successful and eminent university professor, and this is what we get. So, toys for girls. So, it's not about imposing your own point of view. I'm not talking about this. It's about raising the question. Why an artificial intelligence that is fed by millions of people around the world have this image of what a doctor should look like and how a nurse should look like. So as a conclusions, it is necessary to develop gender equality critical thought among students, reflecting on language differences from a gender perspective, can also help teachers deepen their understanding of this topic, because you learn a lot when you teach it in class. Yeah. Teaching English as a second language is an excellent opportunity to develop critical thought about gender issues in students, and creativity and collaboration among teachers can be a powerful tool for developing critical equity in our classrooms. So I want to show you this to finish. This is a QR code that I would like you to scan. If you are interested in this topic, if you want to discuss about it, this is a Facebook group I created, and we can share some ideas here. Here are my contact details, and thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Teacher Claudia Paulino Navarro Núñez, or should I say, Frau Claudia, for this awesome talk about integrating critical thinking about gender equity in English language learning, practical approaches and classroom activities. Vielen Dank. We are reaching the end of this round of talks, and to close this fourth block of talks, we have talk number 12. Rethinking our practice, understanding decolonization and critical pedagogies in English language teaching. We welcome teacher Katia Alexandra García Herreros Ovalle from Escuela Normal de las Huastecas, Huejutla de Reyes, Hidalgo. Welcome, teacher. You may start your talk. Here we have teacher Katia Alexandra García Herreros Ovalle from Escuela Normal de las Huastecas. Welcome.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome. I really appreciate everybody to stay up to here. It's been very interesting, and I've been very happy to have the opportunity to listen to all my colleagues. And of course, I'm delighted to be here using the microphone and the screen to share with you some of my ideas and present this proposal to rethink the way we approach our teaching of English at Escuelas Normales.
Thank you.
Thank you. Should I begin?
Yes. Yes, you may begin.
Thank you very much. Let me share my screen. Okay. Are you able to see it now?
Yes, we can visualize
Excellent.
your presentation.
Thank you very much. Well, I know I have very, very few minutes, so I would like to be very brief, even though I have a lot of information to share with you today. This talk is a summary of ideas from a course I recently presented at CONICEN, the Congress of Research on Normal Education. And I must admit that my understanding of these concepts have, they were enriched by the valuable reflections that the participants shared in the course. And also, of course, I also had very interesting conversations with other experienced colleagues and friends. So let me go ahead. Thank you. As I was saying, decolonization of English, it's a very controversial topic, I know. And I need to say that I chose this topic because today, more than ever, or at least more than I can recall, we English teachers in normal schools face ideological positions that challenge our teaching practice. And they also they have this Nueva Escuela Mexicana concept of redefining the relevance of foreign language, So I think this compels us to think critically about our practice. And I have to say that about myself, that I have always been a proponent of the intercultural approach as a means of mutual understanding. But being in escuelas normales has led me to teach different courses. And one of them was called Pedagogías Críticas y Perspectiva de Colonial, of course, in Spanish, en una de las licenciaturas interculturales. So that's when I realized that above all, it's important to question imposed ideas and embrace different perspectives. And this made me think, how could I include this perspective in my own English teaching practice? So I have to say that this has changed a lot, and it has influenced the way I present the language to my students. And I also has affected, or maybe it's not the correct word, but it has influenced the way I invite them to teach English at their schools. Even though we only have primary and preschool education and physical educators, so they are not English specialists as in secondary level, but even though that, they have to think about this. And let me start with a cite from Paulo Freire. He said, there is no such thing as a neutral education because power structures are always behind education. So these power structures may try to emphasize the status quo or push people towards freedom. So we have to decide what is the focus we want to give. And I would add that teaching a language is never neutral because it shapes how we see the world. Let me start saying what decolonization of English language teaching is not. So first of all, decolonizing English language teaching is not about rejecting English. It doesn't mean that we have to abandon the idea of having a foreign language in our public schools. But the thing is that we have to teach it critically. It doesn't mean that we have to lower our standards. The standards have to be maintained, but we have to broaden what is really valued in language education. And it's not about just adding content, It's about teaching what really makes us different when we speak about language. And we have we just had a very interesting and clear exemplification, from Paulina Navarro when she was talking about how we or people from different cultures see gender, for example. So what is decolonizing? Decolonizing is about, number one, stop reducing English language relevance, because we may think that English teachers advocate for English classes, but sometimes we are the ones who reduce its relevance because we diminish the significance to an instrumental point of view or an instrumental approach. And we will talk more about this topic. We have to identify and avoid reproducing imprecise ideas about English, because sometimes first of all, we have to acknowledge what English has become over the time. And we have to identify the ideas that don't help us and stop reproducing them. We also have to transform our English teaching practices. We have to reflect on them and make different choices. And we will see a little bit more about this. Before I continue, I would like to clarify two very important approaches. One is critical pedagogy, and the other is decolonization of the education. So critical pedagogy focuses on awareness and empowerment through critical education, while decolonization of education seeks to recover and value marginalized knowledge. If you can see, both aim to transform education, but they have a slight difference. Paulo Freire is a very famous, and I just mention one of his ideas at the beginning of this talk. And he stated that education is that it has to be a means of liberation. It has to focus on the development of critical consciousness. If we talk about Linda Tujiwai and Walter Mignolo, these two people advocate the decolonization of education, but starting from the academy. They say that teaching has to be decolonized because knowledge is not a property of the academy. If we talk about Luis Althusser is the one who stated that institutions, whether schools, media, religious organizations, they all act as ideological apparatuses. So it's important to identify and balance the influence they have on reinforcing dominant European ideologies. And last but not least, Boaventura de Sousa Santos, he highlighted that we need to reinvent power structures and emphasizing the value of the knowledge of the people from the colonized regions. So, well, we as teachers may not see what is the problem of English language. Myself, before having the opportunity to study more about critical pedagogy and decolonization, I said, what is the problem? English language is the way to grow, to develop, to get better opportunities. And we have this discourse that we always reproduce, but it's not very frequent that we acknowledge and recognize what is the problem. So it has a legacy on colonialism. English has been spread through colonization, and we have to accept that this is a fact. And it has displaced indigenous languages and cultures. Of course, it is not the only language that has done this, but this is what we are talking about, English. And English is the most spoken language around the world. So we have to talk about colonization as well. It also has this cultural hegemony. Sorry, I have to apologize myself for my weak pronunciation. At Normales, we don't speak English very often, especially teaching lower levels. But the thing is that English is often treated as superior, and sometimes it devaluates local languages and identities. And another problem from the English language is that the global inequalities promoted by capitalism is closely tied to English dominance because of its global economic power. So if we recognize that this could be a problem, then we should know that we are not alone. There are many other teaching professionals and linguistic specialists that have asked themselves the same question and have made a lot of research about it. So I can mention some of them, like Alistair Pennycock, who invites us to teach critically because he warns us English can perpetuate colonial power dynamics if you taught it uncritically. Guji Wationgo, she said that we have to teach and include because English teaching shouldn't replace other languages, but on the contrary, it should include them. And Suresh Kanagaraj, she has told us that we have to teach and empower because a decolonized approach should help students to understand that it's important for them to maintain their linguistic diversity. And let's also think of language and culture. Jean Cummins emphasizes the importance in this relationship, and there's a differentiation that we should consider today. A mother tongue is a language that we learn through our parents in our home, and it's the one that is very, very closely tied to our identity. it's not just a tool for communication. It's closely, it has a sense of belonging when we speak this language. The second language, or third or fourth, another language, is the one that we use in our daily activities. And maybe, for example, in my case, I work at Escuela Normal de las Huastecas, an indigenous region. My students, our students, mainly speak Spanish. There are many of them that speak Nahuatl, but there's always this bilingualism, or they have mother tongue as Spanish as their mother tongue, and they also speak Nahuatl, or vice versa. And a foreign language is the one that you learn in school. So the difference between a second, third, and fourth language is that you don't have to use it in your daily lives. You don't use it for everyday tasks like socializing or buying groceries. A foreign language, you just use it at school, in the classroom. So on the other hand, we have to think of what is the presence of English. And the first time I saw this chart, it was presented by a very dear teacher friend, Sandra Trujillo, and she mentioned that this amount, 1,455, represents the 75% of people speaking English that are non-native. So this is very important because she got this sentence, this statement that really resounded on me. English is now a global medium that belongs to everyone who uses it, not just its native speakers. And now let's confront a very, very spreaded idea that English, it's a threat to culture. So if we understand that there are other languages like science language, mathematic languages, technological jargon, and that we do use them, even though they come from different places around the world, and we don't feel like they are threatening our beliefs or our identities. Even music notation, that it has its roots in France and Italy. And we are well seen, they are accepted. We don't perceive these languages as colonizing forces. So why is English often treated differently? The common thing among these languages and what makes them be perceived as not non-threatening is that they are all tools for our to facilitate our daily lives, our communication, and our even professions. So all languages are approved. So let's continue with this idea of transforming English language teaching. How can it be done? Well, first of all, you have to rethink the curriculum. You have to include diverse cultures and perspectives, not just English-speaking countries. And the multilingual approach, we should encourage our native language speakers to code switching in the classroom. I remember that when I learned English, English was forbidden because the approach, the methodology was an immersive approach. So the idea was you have to, the classroom is your only opportunity to speak English, to listen to English. So Spanish is forbidden in my case. So in this case, for decolonization, we have to promote, on the contrary, we promote this code switching between languages. And of course, we have to embrace critical pedagogy. We have to analyze what is the English role in society. We have to be careful on continuing with this power structure development and inequality and leaving these stereotypes behind. So Rethinking our practice is a matter of cultural respect, of critical analysis. We have to treat our students with respect and equity. They have to feel free and secure to speak their language, even though they are in their English classroom. As a while ago, a moment ago, I mentioned Nueva Escuela Mexicana, and I said it in Spanish, and I used the proper Spanish pronunciation, and it flows naturally. They can do the same with their own languages if they don't find the exact word to express themselves. I'm also inviting you and inviting myself, of course, and I'm moving beyond stereotypes, because sometimes we tend to over admire the values, the habits, the norms, or even the pronunciation these English-speaking countries have. And decolonizing English is about breaking away from this narrow focus. We have to recognize that English is a lingua franca and it's a global language, but it is spoken by many other different cultures, and there are many other pronunciations and variations that could be accepted and well seen. Another thing we can do for decolonizing English language teaching is focusing on a cognitive development. Surprisingly, this is often overlooked, and I have very few times heard that people promote it or talk about this like a reason for learning English, especially compared to more practical motivations like going out of the country and getting better job positions. But research indicates that learning an additional language, such as English in this case, can enhance cognitive flexibility, improve problem-solving skills, and even delay the onset of dementia. So mastering a new language involves more than just expanding vocabulary and understanding grammar structures or functions. It also requires the ability to do this code switching that I was mentioning a moment ago, and not only from one term to another, but even through conceptions, because concepts and ideas don't have the same meaning or the same impact, let's say. So this mental flexibility also boosts creativity. So it is another important reason that we can also, not only among teachers, but also let our students realize that they are improving their mental skills while learning English. And
we have 1 minute.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I was scared. So, well, I'm just going to mention decolonizing considerations in assessment. It's important to recognize this multilingual competence, avoid penalizing non-native varieties, and incorporate local knowledge in our assessment. And I will go back to my first slide, one of my first slides. I said, what is decolonizing English teaching? It is about stop reducing English learning to purely instrumental terms and expand its potential. It's avoid conscious or unconscious, because we never know what are our motivations, of this reinforcement of inequalities that pressure our students to assimilate into a dominant culture. And it's also about transforming English into a tool that students can wield critically without losing sight of their own languages, cultures, and worldviews. So this is call to actions. It's a continuous process. Decolonizing English teaching requires an ongoing effort and adaptation. So if you want to jump on this train, please feel free to contact me, and you have my email. And thank you for listening, and thank you for sharing me with this wonderful event. Thank you, Carlos. That's all from me.
Thank you. Thank you, teacher Katia Alexandra Garcia Herreros Ovalle, for this interesting talk you gave us this afternoon, connecting us to this rethinking our practice, understanding decolonization and critical pedagogies in English language teaching, and the need to decolonize English teaching and teach English critically. And that decolonization of English teaching involves rethinking and transforming traditional English language education to better reflect and respond to the diverse cultural, linguistic, and historical contexts in learners. This approach aims to move away from Eurocentric or Western-centric perspective and instead embrace a more inclusive and equitable pedagogy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you to all three teachers, and I would like to ask you to continue with us for 3 more minutes in this room to receive your certificates of participation. I leave you with Carolina Maturano.
Gracias, maestro, y a nuestras invitadas. La Autoridad Educativa Federal en la Ciudad de México, a través de la Dirección General de Educación Normal y Actualización del Magisterio, otorgan el presente reconocimiento a Lidia Samantha León Benavides, ponente, Claudia Paulina Navarro Núñez, ponente, Katia Alexandra García Herreros Ovalle, ponente, y a Carlos Cándido da Silva Elvas, moderador, por su participación en el bloque 4 de ponencias perspectivas docentes en el marco del cuarto conversatorio de inglés Building Collaborative Networking Among English Normal Teachers. Construir comunidades de colaboración entre docentes de inglés en escuelas normales, que se llevó a cabo en modalidad virtual. Firma Eugenio Aurelio López López, Director General, Ciudad de México, octubre 2024. Nuevamente, gracias. Les informamos que está disponible tanto en el chat del canal de YouTube y ahora aparecerá en pantalla el enlace y código QR para registrar su asistencia y evaluar este encuentro. Hemos llegado al final de este cuarto conversatorio de inglés. Muchas gracias por habernos acompañado durante estos 3 días de actividades. Nos estaremos viendo en los próximos eventos académicos de la DGNAM. Buena tarde y hasta pronto.